Hey team, welcome back. We got a little bit of notes to do today on the Obama presidency, so we're going to jump right in. Our central question for today is, how did President Obama respond to the problems affecting our country? So we took a look at some issues going on in the country in 2008. We're going to look at what did Obama do to respond to that. So I've gone ahead and written down my central question, and you should take a minute, pause the video, do that as well. And we'll go ahead and get started. All right, so I showed you guys this photograph last time. This is Obama in November 4th, 2008 with his family. He has just won the election to be our next president. And so when he takes office, he's going to be met with a number of problems and a number of challenges. And we're going to look at 4 of those today. And we're going to start with the most dramatic one, and that is our economy. Right? Our economy is not doing well. There is I'm going to back up. There is a major economic problem happening when Obama takes office, and the vocab word there is, the word that describes that problem is the 2008 financial crisis. So I'm going to write that down as well, because it's bolded and underlined. It's probably pretty important. So our main problem, we're in this financial crisis, right? And so that is a major economic depression, right? So economic depression, we're talking about money, right? We're talking about not having enough of it. And so we're in this major economic depression, which caused job loss. Also caused a loss of people's houses and businesses because people didn't have enough money to pay for their houses, to pay for their businesses, to keep rent going and keep their doors open. So Obama inherits this massive problem. What does he do about it? All right, and so this slide gets into that detail. So our problem is the economy. What does he do about it? Well, he helps to pass a bill or a law called the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act. I'm holding my laptop in an awkward position, and I'm probably going to be making more typos as we go on. All right, so his act helped pass this law. What does the law do? Well, it's called a stimulus bill. Right, to stimulate is to like increase, to wake up a little bit, and that's exactly what the bill is there to do. The bill is to stop the economic problems, right? Stop the economic depression and wake up the economy. Right, the economy is not doing so hot. We're going to pass this bill. We're going to spend a bunch of money, and the economy is going to start moving again, right? So people are able to get hired, take that money, buy a house, or pay off their house, pay rent so their business can open again. And so I shared this tweet from Obama that shows, in terms of job growth, what the situation was. So here in red, this is when President Bush is in office, right? It's getting worse and worse and worse. And then here at this moment, this is when Obama takes office. And so everything in blue is his doing, or at least while he is president. So we're in a pretty bad situation. It's really rough. But then slowly we start to go back to zero. And finally, in a year or so, we start to actually grow, and we maintain that growth, right, throughout his presidency. So pretty big problem, needed a pretty big response, and we got it with the stimulus bill. All right, but let's move on. So number 2, the second problem that we're experiencing as a country is healthcare. It is way too expensive, and many people did not have insurance. And so when people don't have insurance, it can be very tricky because that means they're not really taking care of themselves. So they're going to the doctor, right, when they have a severe problem, right? They're going to the hospital, and they can't afford it, and so we end up all paying that out of our taxes, right, as a country, and that's just not sustainable. We can't do that forever. And Obama's response is to pass and help pass a very big and controversial bill called the Affordable Care Act. You probably have heard of this one called Obamacare. It's not exactly a nice, it doesn't have like the nicest connotation, but Obama sort of ended up adopting it as his term went on. And, you can kind of see them used interchangeably. But Obamacare did a lot of things. But sort of the main thing it did was to expand health insurance to everyone, right, to all Americans. It required people to have insurance, right? So if everybody has insurance, the cost goes down a bit, and that's what I experienced. I used the Obamacare insurance for a while. Had nothing but good things to say about it. When you're in a position where you're not making much, it's nice to have that government option, so you can kind of get the bare minimum, right, what you need, at an affordable rate. And so this is still pretty controversial, right? We're still arguing about, hey, can we require people to have insurance today? But it is the response that Obama took after seeing the problem of what healthcare was doing to our country. All right, we'll wrap these two up. They're pretty short. Number 3, I'm just going to put lack of diversity in government, right? So as the picture shows, people in the high positions in government, they're mostly older white men. There's not a lot of women. There's not a lot of people of color. And there's definitely not a lot of women of color in the government at this time. And so, something Obama can do and did was hire more women and more women of color. So his response is going to expand those opportunities, right? He's going to hire women and women of color and expand opportunities in the highest levels of government, right? Expand opportunities in powerful government positions. And so he does that by making a couple big important hires. The first is Hillary Clinton, who was his opponent. That's her right here. They ran against each other in 2008, but he recognized that she was a force and that they could really use her power and her skills and ability as Secretary of State. So she represented our country to other countries around the world and worked with diplomats and international relations and, at the UN. Like, she was the person who represented us for a while, and she was incredibly popular, did a great job as Secretary of State. He also hired two women, not hired, but he also appointed two women on the U.S. Supreme Court. So first is Sonia Sotomayor, and the second, Elena Kagan, the one actively shaking hands with Hillary Clinton. These women are both Supreme Court justices. So if you're a judge, right, this is the highest court you can be in. It's the most impressive. It's the one that makes all of our key decisions that affect everybody in this country. So he hired two very competent women to be on the court while he was president. And finally, climate change. Now, of course, climate change, human actions that cause global warming. And that's, hurting our planet. Right, we only got one. So we got to take care of it while we can. Of course, Obama doesn't, fix this overnight. This is a huge global problem. But he does do some things as president. He acts to protect the environment by investing in clean energy, like solar, like wind. It's one of those words I can never spell. Investing in clean energy and limiting pollution. So if you're a big company and you're polluting a lot, you got to pay some fines. And so just to wrap this up, all right, we talked about 4 problems that Obama experienced as president. I want to compare that with a problem that President George W. Bush experienced as president. He was the man president before Obama was, and that was dealing with Hurricane Katrina, which was a major environmental disaster. So Katrina caused major damage to Louisiana and to the city New Orleans. And Bush's reaction was weak. He was on vacation when the hurricane hit. His staff didn't want to burden him with this information, so they didn't tell him what was going on. And so while people were really struggling, the hurricane was causing damage, and then dealing with the aftermath. Right, no electricity, no food, no water. How do people get help? He was on vacation, and so by the time he was told, and he went cut his vacation short and went back to the White House to start dealing with this problem. This is a famous photograph taken of him looking down at what the hurricane had done to the city, and it just wasn't a great photograph. It makes him look a little detached. Makes him look like he didn't care, or isn't really involved in it. And just to compare that to some of these major things Obama dealt with, and what he did, pretty quickly to respond to these problems, we can start to see a little comparison there. But we will talk about Bush and his major problem dealing with 9/11. We'll talk about that next class, and we'll give a more fair comparison. But I wanted to throw that in there. All right. Last up, you're going to look over these notes. You're going to think, hey, if I was studying these notes for a test coming up next week, what are 1 or 2 big things I should really take away from these notes? So go ahead and read over them, identify those important topics, and then go ahead and write your summary of what you learned here in the box. And you can go ahead and turn in your notes and begin working on the next activity. I'm sorry, don't turn in your notes, but when you're done with this note, with the summary, you'll turn it over, continue with the activity on the back, and then you'll turn that into the box. All right, thanks team for watching.